Yeah, push the bottom.
All right. Let us pray. This is the words of the poet James Dillard Freeman. This is God's house. May we who come here not only find out about God, but find God. May there be beauty in this place, but especially may it be a place where men and women become aware of the beauty in themselves. May this be a place of worship. May this be a place of instruction. May this be a place of singing. May this be a place of prayer. But for us who worship and take instruction and sing and pray, may this always be a place of inner stillness where we may listen and hear when God speaks. May whoever ministers here minister in love. May whoever teaches here teach truth. May whoever serves here serve pleasantly. May everyone come into this house in expectation and go with thanksgiving. And may anyone who comes needing help go feeling blessed. May this be such a house that Jesus Christ, or any stranger, even one of the least, would feel in it that he was with friends. Amen. So we're going to run this video a second time and we're trying to get it started. Get us all excited. Sufficiently inspired.
Microphone.
Yes. It's been said that when a person comes to a church, he or she is looking for not just friendly people, but they're looking for friends. This implies real connection and even commitment. But where do we find the bandwidth to not only be friends for each other, but also for every visitor who seeks one? And we know as Christians, we are called to be God's hands and feet in the world, but how do we continue to discern what is ours to do? How do we continue to grow in our faith and in our ministry? As individuals, our reach is limited, but as a church, anything is possible.
great to see so many of you here today. It really is. We're going to talk to you about the COS fellowship groups that we're envisioning going forward. We realize that many of you who have been here have been a part of other kinds of small groups in this church, and that's absolutely phenomenal. I think you understand the benefits of groups of people getting together and getting to know each other, getting to know your parishioners. Personal experience, over the last year, I've had lunch on Sundays with half a dozen or more people who I knew who they were, but I didn't know anything about them. And just spending 2 hours together in a lunch setting changed everything about the relationship. And I think that small groups of people getting together regularly can change your relationship with those parishioners and grow everybody's strength and everybody's faith. So the fellowship groups that we envision are groups of between 6 and 9 people who meet at least once a month to build community, foster each other's spiritual development. They're committed to studying together, building transformative relationships, and discipleship in their time together. The COS fellowship groups will seek to serve 4 purposes: the need for community, the need for spiritual mutual support, support for spiritual growth, and support for discipleship, vocation, and call. The first purpose is to develop community, the potential to meet new people, and the opportunity for deeper connections. In a 2001 article written by Ed Stannard in the publication Episcopal Life, the author asked the question, why are young people not coming to church? Stannard came to the conclusion that young people seek connection, and if you don't have authenticity, honesty, and community, then you might as well kiss that young person goodbye. It's not about theology, the author writes. It's about the experience of the holy, the relationships formed and celebrated among those participating and between each person and God. But it's not just young people who seek community. Diana Butler Bass researched vibrant churches looking for commonalities between them in her book, Christianity for the Rest of Us. She relays the words of Deanna, who realized, this is not a do-it-yourself deal. I need fellow travelers to teach me, to hold my hand, and to remind me of Jesus' promises. Don't we all?
The second purpose is to provide spiritual support, to minister to each other and to provide support in times of need. When the spiritual formation, and I hope they don't mind me sharing this, I don't think anybody will mind. When the spiritual formation group began 2 years ago, literally I think every single person in that group had lost either a parent or a spouse in the previous 2 years. And imagine the potential need that might represent. And if we don't have, and we as a group, if we don't have close relationships with each other, how do we know when someone needs support? How will others know when we need help? No matter how well staffed the church is, the clergy can't do it all. So the third purpose is the support for spiritual growth through book study or Bible study and discussion to enhance our relationships with God. For the past 2 summers, I've attended weeks-long training sponsored by the Episcopal group College for Congregational Development. The CCD defines the purpose of a church with 3 words: gather, transform, and send. The role of the church is to gather, welcome, and integrate, to transform, and then to send us out into the world to be God's hands and feet. That brings up the question. Thinking for a moment, where in this church are our sites of transformation? Other than corporate worship, where else in our church can our faith be nurtured and strengthened? Fellowship groups are designed for that purpose.
The fourth purpose is to provide support for discerning and fulfilling our unique calls. Support for discipleship, vocation, and call means to support each other in the discernment and fulfillment of our individual calls to serve. The authors of the book Listening Hearts, Discerning Call in Community write, "A wise swimmer does not cross a difficult channel without a boat close behind, with those aboard watching for signs of danger or weariness, and providing words of encouragement along the way. Nor does a prudent climber scale a mountain alone without companions to hold their rope and help along the way. Neither should one minister alone. Ministry, lay or ordained, requires support. Without support, we may become lonely, bored, or weary. We may feel trapped by the task that we have undertaken or find ourselves unable to or unwilling to ask for help. Without support, ministry may become lost. Without support, we may become lost. Your COS fellowship group can provide that support. Words of encouragement when you are weary, prayers, or another set of ears through which to hear Christ.
This is not the first time, as Clyde mentioned, it's not the first time we've had small groups here at COS. And some groups were formed decades ago and are still meeting today. So Clyde and I have asked Paul Killian to talk a bit about his experience in a small group.
Paul, is that an older picture of you right there?
A small group experience.
Did I spell your name wrong?
You spelled it correctly.
Okay.
There are two L's in the Irish spelling.
Oh, okay.
But that would mean I like Guinness more than I do. Not that I don't. So I was thinking I was going to talk about connection, but I can talk about the groups next point. We formed, they were called circles in those days. Some of you remember, and there were typically 8 in a group, mixture of singles and couples. And we met once a month typically, and we had options. We sat down and decided how we were going to do it. Sometimes we'd alternate between people's homes. And within that context, sometimes it was potluck. Occasionally someone would say, I just want to cook the whole thing myself. Kathy Vescovi did that once and did a marvelous thing. And we might have chipped in for the roast beef or something. When we were in a group with the Gillespie, someone had a connection with Caltech. So we had our December meeting at the Athenaeum all dressed up. It was a wonderful experience that way. A bunch of us took the Gold Line down to Azusa, where it ended in those days, walked to a barbecue place. These are the activities. What was happening, of course, was the fellowship. That's the point of getting together. Brene Brown says we are wired for connection. Isn't that a great word? Say that. Connection. That kind of rolls off the bicuspids real smooth. Laura Isaac, anthropologist, said, as humans, we are gregarious, which is we're designed to run in packs like wolves. Well, it sounds funny, but his point was we're not like insects designed to live in colonies. Of course, we all do now, us city livers, and I don't know if we're paying a price for some of that. So we find sanctuary in the church. Just a quick story. Years ago, there was a choral conductors guild. All the choir directors around LA met regularly. Gloria was president one year. Linda May, some of you remember, Linda was our choir director. She was president. And the chaplain was an old fellow from Azusa Pacific. And he gave an address that really struck me in regards to what we're talking about. He says, as a choir director, you're looking out at your folks, And every single one of them has his or her own reason for being there. Now, and you may not, that not even be the reason you think they ought to be there. But as individuals, they have brought this little expression of God's love, walking around, designing its own life, moving in and out of whatever plan was designed for them with the freedom that they have to be whoever they want to be. And so the choir director's job is twofold. One, he has a function to get them to sing and lead worship. And that leads me to one quick observation here. Worship is a collective thing. It's a communal thing. And you can be very selves and have a very powerful, deep spiritual experience, but worshiping together is another dynamic. Kierkegaard addressed this, and I'll just share this briefly with you. He said there are three functions, and typically the congregation thinks of themselves as the audience, and they think of the worship team, that'd be the preacher and the choir, as the worshipers, and God is just kind of the coach there, giving incentive. And he says that's not the right dynamic. In reality, we are the worshipers, and the team are the coaches. God is the audience. So worship is not a spectator sport. And incidentally, that's why we don't clap after the choir sings, right? They're not performers, they're not entertaining you. What they are doing is helping you aesthetically move into a spiritual place. And Ivan, you may have noticed I encouraged Bob to include the text of the anthems. Follow along, right? Pray with them. Let that move you into a better place. That's what worship is all about. Okay, so collectively, we're doing that, and that's part of relationship. Now, the other aspect that the choir director is dealing with is each individual volition, standing there together, collectively forming the family, which is the choir, and in a broader sense, we are that way in the church. We each have something to bring, and we're different social aspects, different political things, different theological bents, and all of that is not a barrier. It's a cohesiveness if we learn how to generate it properly. That's why Jeff is always saying, we're richer because you're here. He welcomes the difference. These monolithic structures where everybody believes the same become static and begins to smell after 3 days, right? The curiosity of unfolding the mystery of who God is in our lives and in our congregations is something that continues to be pursued. So, in our worship service per se, it's a worship experience collectively, but then how individually do we react? Or you can't in the service talk a whole lot, so we go out into the patio, and there's someone standing there I don't know, so I go, hi, I'm Paul. Hello. Don't think I know you. You here? Been here 15 years. How are you feeling today? Fine. And those of us introverts in the crowd are thinking, man, there must be a better way to do this. But then, all of a sudden, Nancy and Clyde say, have I got a plan for you? Because it's an expression of this, where we get together in an informal way, and as you all know, meeting over food really seems to grease the companionship, doesn't it? I don't know, I can be awkward with someone, we can sit over a meal, it's very comforting. So this provides that, as well as a means to explore who you are as an individual, particularly in regards to your faith, but totally. And we're all looking for a place where we can go. What does Robert Frost say? Home is where, when you have to go there, they have to take you in. There's something very comfortable about the kind of welcomeness that the church provides. So, this is my little 2 cents here on community.
Thank you. So now we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of how we are envisioning this.
First of all, and you'll hear more details in a minute here, the key thing is if you want to participate, there's a form on your desk, on the table there, for you to fill out if you're interested in participating. Remember, there's 2 sides there to get the information. That's a hard copy. Soon we'll also have it available online for you to fill out. But anyway, that's the first first step for your participation, once you hear all the details of how we envision these groups working.
Yeah, and so there are a couple ways that groups can be formed. You can create your own group, but nobody needs to, right? So what we'll do is we'll take the information that you give us in the sign-up sheets, and we'll create suggested groups. We're not plugging people into groups without their, agreement. So it's a little bit of a process so that you get in, you feel comfortable. But you can, if you have people you want to have a group with, you can create your own group, but you don't need to. We intend to come up with groups. If you like where you're placed, if it seems to fit, great. And if you would prefer a different type of group, you can let us know.
Each group will have a facilitator. The facilitator will come from the members of the group normally, but we may have people who will sort of be put into a particular group to be the facilitators. Facilitators will be required to attend an initial training session and meetings about once every other quarter, and we're really happy that we have two people that are advising us on what we're doing. One is Brian, and the other is Jane. I know she's here somewhere. Both of them will be helping us in providing guidance and training, if you will, for the facilitators. The qualities required of a facilitator are the ability to stay neutral, listening ability, the ability to synthesize ideas, create a safe environment, and be authentic. Let one of us know if you're interested in becoming a facilitator of a group.
Each group will decide whether they meet once a month or every 2 weeks.
Groups can meet any place that works for them, but most will probably meet in a member's home. And once you form the group, that can change too. It doesn't have to be in the same home every month. Each group's going to have the flexibility to make the group work for the 6 to 9 people that are a part of that group. So what we're presenting today are sort of guidelines and how we envision it, but things are going to change over time as these groups become more important in the lives of the members.
And we advise sharing some kind of snack. We had not really planned this to be a dinner group because we were afraid the dinner would take away from the discussion and the focus on spiritual formation. But we do advise some kind of snack to be provided.
Resources will be provided, such as the suggested format that includes prayer, check-in, and discussion. It's important in what we envision that these are groups that build relationships, that get you deeper involved in the lives of your fellow parishioners. Not just sit around and have a meal, but find out what's going on in their lives, where they need help, where they need prayer, and also, obviously, to study together and learn together.
Each group will decide how it will use its time. Most will probably decide to begin with a book study. Some may choose to do a discussion-based Bible study. You could do a sermon study. A group may be theme-based, such as creation care or social justice or single moms, if you're all single moms, or empty nest, or who knows.
We're going to spend the next 2 months, January and February, recruiting, for lack of a better word, people who want to participate. And sometime toward the end of February, we will begin forming the groups and letting people know what groups is where, and getting your involvement and approval of the group that you're assigned to become a part of. The groups will begin to meet in March and continue throughout the spring. Again, each group can determine what they want to do. Your group may or may not choose to take the summer off, or maybe to meet once during the summer rather than every month because people travel and all of that. So, and then back to sort of the regular schedule in the fall.
So, what questions do you have?
How many people in that group that Don't do my job.
Sorry, Tom. I will not touch you down.
It'll be, do you want to answer that since you have
I didn't hear what you
how
said.
many people in the group?
Yeah,
Please again.
how many people would that be, the group you suggest?
Well, we think that the best number is between at least 6 and probably not more than 9. Those are sort of the ideas that we have in terms of what's going on. Obviously, if you have 5 couples and there's 10 people, you know, whatever works, but 6 to 9 is the idea.
Other question? Yes.
How long do you imagine a group continuing? Because it seemed like you were thinking like a year, like you might take out the summer, then you'd be back. But would they all be like that, or would they be fruit basket turnover at some point, or?
I'm thinking we should ask our consultants and talk a little bit further about that, but what were you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously, we're still flexible in what's going on. From personal experience, when I came back to faith and started attending church, it was in All Saints Beverly Hills. And one of the really important things in my development as a Christian and relationships with people was the small group that I became a member of fairly early on. I'm still friends with those people today, even though I haven't been going to that church in 15 years. But the groups were really more permanent. I mean, each group could decide themselves, but there was no defined time for the group to expire. However, obviously, if some new parishioner comes that you want to grab and become a part of your group, absolutely. We're not forcing any kind of definition on you. We want the group to work for the group. That's the most important thing. If you feel like you've accomplished everything in 6 months, fine, we'll form a new group. Does that make sense? I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
Can everybody hear him?
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind then. My bad.
Other questions? Thoughts? Yes. Bob?
My question is, church and state, will political questions be permitted? Because I'm very much involved in what's going on in our country.
We can see what Clyde has to say about this, but I'll give him the hard questions. But I would say everything is from a spiritual perspective. So if you were to step into that, that area of conversation, that we would want it to have a spiritual component.
Yeah, I
We'd
think-
encourage it to have a.
I think that's the key. That's our idea at this point, is that these are going to be spiritual groups. They're going to involve prayer with each other, getting to know each other from that perspective, and studying spiritual things. However, from a personal standpoint, I think it's very difficult if you get to know somebody, or if you get to know 6 people, to not to get into the subject matter that you mentioned. So I think those kind of things will obviously come up, but that's not intended to be the main focus. Does that make sense?
I understand that.
And of course, there are books out there, I'm sure you've run across some that are about that connection between the political and the spiritual or theological.
There you go. Hand off.
I love this idea, it was great in the past, and I know it can be great again. But just one thing in an experience that I did have with the last Circles group is we got so attached to each other and our own groups that the idea of Circles was rotating and moving so that you met more people in the church and you had more groups, and that's how we reached out to learn and get to know more people. But we did find that they stopped circling and just stayed in their own group.
Just a comment.
That is actually true. I had the same experience with that. Oh, yeah, look what you did. Look what you did. Ed, no, Ed's last.
so I have two questions. If, as a small group, we're also encouraged to invite others to join, let's say our neighbors or friends from work, and it then grows beyond 9 people, then what? Okay, so that's my first question. And then the second question is, are we forming these groups by interest or by proximity? By geography or by interest?
Great question. You should ask for questions.
While we're waiting for Nancy to have the microphone, the first question was about
Your friends.
growth, expansion of the group. I think it's really up to you. I mean, I don't think if you have a friend that you want to bring into the group, do it. I mean, we're not forcing any definition. I mean, you know, somebody may move in the group and you're down to 5. I mean, the groups aren't going to end. I think the key is the chemistry among the people.
Forgot the second question already? Oh, so that's, so when you look at the sign-up sheet, it will ask you some questions like that. So, if you want to form a group based on an interest, put that on the form, you know, and otherwise we would probably be looking at geographically, you know, close, trying grouping people according to who's.
Yeah, we don't want you to have to drive for an hour to
Yeah.
go to your group once a month. I mean, we want it to be convenient for everybody involved in that group.
I saw hands over here. Ed, it was the third.
I want to say that this is an excellent idea. I'm so pleased to see it happening. I led small groups at All Saints Pasadena, and I found the optimum size was about 8 people. This is particularly true in the contemplative prayer group. I led that for a couple months, and when we terminated the group, people testified that their lives had been transformed. So these small groups where people get to talk and they can bring to it their life experience is very important. I also led a men's group that was gay and straight together, in which we had achieved a level of understanding that between the gay and the straight that is very rare. So again, in that group I had 2 Jesuits, for example. And everybody benefited from it, but the group going on indefinitely doesn't seem to work, in my experience. Yeah. So I think you're doing an excellent job here at bringing this kind of change to this church. I'm so glad to see it.
We used to have it.
Last resort.
We used to have it.
I also endorsed the small groups based on the circles groups from years ago. A couple of thoughts. Shared facilitation. You need shared leadership. I'm part of the men's group that's been meeting for almost 20 years, every other week for almost 20 years, and it's going strong. So I also urge you to do what Christ did, to sit down and have a bowl of soup in the middle of the table, or a bowl of chili or something like that. There is something special about sharing a meal. It doesn't have to be expensive. But I think my big question is, ultimately, and Natasha began to answer the question, how do these small groups begin to grow the church? Yeah. Yes. Sorry, Jeff.
You want to do it, Jeff? Yeah, I mean, I could answer it.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like, don't get me started.
yeah, well, I mean, you know, our church is only as big as it is small, right? We as people want to be known and to know, right? Which means that, and the Holy Spirit and our relationship with God is intrinsically relational. It's intrinsically relational. This is perhaps a sporty analogy, but the life of faith is not an individual sport, right? It's a team sport, right? It takes collaboration and teamwork together. And so in order for us to grow as a church and as individuals, as a community, as individuals, as groups, we need to know each other and we need to be known, which means we need places where we can be vulnerable, where we can share our true selves with one another, pray together and walk together. And that doesn't, it's beautiful. Look how many people are here. It's fantastic. And there's an impossibility to know people at an intimate level in a bigger group. And so small groups enable us to know and to be known and to grow together individually and collectively, and therefore grow the church. Does that answer your question, Ed?
It begins to answer the question.
Okay.
I bet you Nancy.
Yeah.
Well, it's a don't get me started subject, so I'll just say that one thing that strikes me about the phrase, the church is as big as it is small, is that we need to be, I know many of you know each other really well and care for each other already. You know, you're there when they need you, but this is a system for setting, this is a systematic way of making sure that no one's going to fall through the cracks. And I was in a high growth church once, and the reason why we never got tired and we could tolerate that, we could adjust to the growth of the new people coming, was because we took care of each other.
Yeah. Right here.
Yeah, I think this is a great idea. My father-in-law, some people think of the Episcopalians as the frozen chosen, so maybe we're experiencing a spring thaw here.
Thank you. So,
There you go.
Where do you turn these in?
Give it to Nancy.
Where and how do you turn these in?
Give them to Nancy or to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be today. I mean, we're gonna have a table set up in the patio for the next 6 Sundays. So we'll be around. So you don't have to sit here today and fill it out, take the form home, bring it back in a week or two.
You mentioned resources given to the group.
Yeah, we're gonna have information, some ideas for books to study, subject matter kind of thing, in a format, if you will. So, and they're guidelines, they're not something that we're forcing on anybody. So, obviously, we form the group, something might work for your group that doesn't work for another group, and vice versa.
Growing the church means bringing in new people. I mean, we need to, of course, nurture ourselves, but we need to go out.
Yeah.
Bring in new people.
Nobody's arguing that point, and we all agree with that point. But I think that as we, as members of this church, grow stronger in our faith, we will be able to share that with others more effectively.
I would just comment, I really agree with Kathy, and I would also say, the first 2 strategic plans had as one of their primary things grow the church. And a lot of us were thinking, it'll grow when it's a vibrant entity. Otherwise you bring them in and they just leave the next week. So both are true.
Yeah, and I think that, I've been coming here for, 7 or 8 years now. This church is very different today than it was 8 years ago. I think when I came in here the first Sunday, I was one of the younger people in this parish. That's half joking, but it's not totally true. Today, we would not have found 40 children and teenagers of faith in a service like we've had here in the past. That's something that gives me great hope for the future of this church and the church in general. And I think that as we, as older members of the parish, older members of faith, grow and get to know each other better, we can get to expand that into the community. So and if somebody wants to come in and join the group that's not a member of the church, if it works with that group, go for it. We're not defining anything.
yeah, just to piggyback on what Keith said and also what Kathy said, there's a saying that small groups will close the back door to the church. You know, it's like people, and I've heard this over and over again, people come for the service, they stay for the relationships.
Amen.
And if we don't have that opportunity, they may show up on Easter, or who knows, but, okay. Thank you.
1 second, yes.
Just a suggestion, consider our Saviour Center and bringing in folks that attend there or staff there, but also consider not only English and Mandarin, but possibly Spanish, and see who might be bilingual in other languages that we could then consider those groups as well.
I think that one of the questions on the forum, I think, involves language.
Yeah, it says English, Mandarin, no preference, but I'm saying list other languages. Yes.
Fire away. Yes, sir.
Well, I'm going to stand up because I'm a lecturer. I feel more comfortable. In my most recent experience with small groups, I think about what are the benefits of this. And probably one of the greatest benefits that I had wasn't just the education and the sharing of the knowledge of Jesus Christ and the Bible, but it was the praying for each other at the end. And that's really what's quintessential to learning about each other, is because we can all use a little more prayer in our lives, at least I can. And having that time to listen to sometimes struggles, happy things people are going through, and having an opportunity for everyone to pray for each other, it really kept these people in your community a lot tighter. And I'm just an experience that I had that I really cherish a lot.
Thank you. That's 2 bells, Nancy.
Okay, you want to do your thing
Yeah.
next, and then.
I'm just going to hijack this for a second because early churchgoers, this is a message for you. I'm going to run to the top of the church today to invite people to next week's forum, where Jeff and I are going to do something that will heal a hurting world. So we want to invite you to attend. Next forum, it'll be at least a 2-part series. And thank you, Clyde and Nancy, so very